the president-elect for the Catholic Teachers for Ontario, but we got a few other people here I think we need to recognize. First of all, our EDFO colleagues. I'm not sure of the name yet. So.
Laura
Laura?
Ember.
Ember from OSSTF, right?
EDFO here.
Yeah, so we got EDFO. So this isn't just about the Catholic teachers. We have to have our stuff with us. And Brian, who used to be the president here and then was president for the Labour Council locally. So, and then we've got Adriana, who's the current president of elementary. Where we just going around. Oh, Jody just left. She's the president. Kane is the first vice president. Bill, and I should remember because it was the same as Bill. And Rose is from our provincial office. Want to chat a little bit about Stone Canyon and a few other things. I guess the first thing is you folks are on the front line of a fight that's like, it's not just about you, right? We have this greedy corporate model that's kind of crept in, and it's not about wealth anymore, because wealth actually values workers, and they value your families, your communities and stuff. And now corporations have just gotten greedy, and you don't matter unless they can put you in your pocket, right? So I have a real problem with that. I do want to make sure I say unequivocally, teachers have your back. It matters that you're out here. All workers have the same interests. You know, corporations would want us all to be divided, and they want workers groups to be fighting each other, and we're not showing support. But as you can see, with the teachers affiliates, I'm from Toronto, we're very close there, but at the provincial level, we very much have our eyes on what's happening here. We appreciate the fight that you're into, because this is never an easy thing. I understand how difficult it is. My experience with strikes is only a few weeks, because in education and the government gets involved, it usually ends up so. You folks over 100 days is like a crazy commitment, and we try and help our members understand the kind of commitment that takes, because it matters. The contracting, I can't believe that we have to talk about contracting out and, you know, security for jobs and stuff like that. What I wanted to say about contracting out, what bothers me about that is it makes jobs less secure. How are you supposed to like manage a family, look at buying a house, you know, owning a house or continuing to own a house? When you're on strike, that gets, you guys get in jeopardy, right? It makes it precarious. But it's like that if you have to worry that your job's always going to be gone. So there's just no excuse for that. It's just complete disrespect for the workers. What's more important to good union jobs puts money into the community. You folks are in this for things that matter for you. I want to say it's not just for you. It matters for Windsor. Like the kind of community, the future that you think Windsor can have matters. If you guys lose this fight and workers are relegated to the kind of conditions they're asking for, that's not good for any workers, and it affects the whole community. And we were talking at lunch, you know, the port depends on what you folks do, the community members, and I'm really glad to hear about the kind of support you've had out here, because the community understands that, so I think that's important. One of the things I did want to make sure I mentioned, because this really pisses me off, there are more billionaires now than there have ever been.
Hey.
There is more obscene profit than there has ever been. And there's more wealth than there's ever been. And those people continue to try and sell workers that you shouldn't ask for fair wages. And you can't believe that for a second, because that is BS. The fact that they don't share that with workers is really a sign of disrespect that I have a real problem with. That you deserve decent work and fair wages, and you should never apologize for working or demanding stuff that workers deserve. Right? I wanted to chat just for a second there, because what bothers me, corporations and the governments continue to try to undermine unions and workers, and that is a real issue. Labour had a moment in history last November. There's Bill 28, and I want to mention that because I'm watching groups that have been on strike, and I'm watching settlements that are continuing to grow. There's a pattern there. And I haven't seen in my last 20 years the kind of willingness of workers to take this on. They're getting a sense that this is unfair, and the settlements they're getting are continue to grow. What happened in Bill 28, that was a bill that the government passed that basically said to the $39,000 a year workers in education and workers, you're going to go back. We're going to not give you the right to strike. We're not going to give you a chance to bargain for your wages, and we're not going to give you your constitutional right. We're going to write unconstitutional law to deny those things. What was so good about that, I had the good fortune, I was with the OFL, and I'm a representative there, and we started meeting on the Friday. By the Saturday, the whole OFL was there, but by the Sunday, private unions were in on the conversations. And I got to tell you, I was saying at lunch, it was cool because we were at the point where like, damn, we're actually going to have a province-wide strike. Because everyone understood if you take away the right to strike and you try and strike break, that affects everybody. Even the private unions that stood with Ford during the election, they showed up. The next part was, I said this was interesting because in my head, then the coin flipped and I said, this is going to happen. This is so cool. Like next Saturday? And then I was like, oh, when they find out, they're going to pull the bill for sure. Right? So I was thinking, and I asked the question at the table, I said, what happens if they pull the bill? Because then the province-wide strike would be off. And sure enough, Labour scared this government, this current government, and they flinched. And on the Monday, they raced to the podium. There was a 10 o'clock announcement by the unions. They got to the podium at 9 o'clock and said, there's no Bill 28, we're pulling it back. Because they knew where that was going and they couldn't do it. That's when workers show their power. Right? 100%. We haven't had a province-wide strike since the 1920s. Like, that's crazy. And so that you're in a fight, I just want to say, remember that you're in a fight that has a growing understanding by the workers in this province that we have something in common and that you deserve fair work and fair wages. I want to talk about the other part I was asked to make sure I mentioned, so I should talk about the OTPP. The Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, $280 million. Stone Canyon is one of the investments. Let me be very clear. Teachers completely reject their behaviors. We do not accept their strike breaking. Okay? In November, there were discussions and comments already starting from all of the teacher affiliates. In March, our president wrote a letter to the OTPP, or sorry, it was before that, it was a month before, telling them that those tactics had to be looked at. And OTPP, the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, obviously says, well, we have shares, but we don't run it. So we don't care. If you knock on the door, they're going to listen, so we'll knock on the door and tell them that that shouldn't be happening. We wrote the letter, we got a typical meh corporate response. So when the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan had their annual general meeting in March, it was great. At the questions in a public session, our president got right up and said, I sent you a letter and the answer sucks. And the teachers are pissed off, they want you to do something more. That's not enough. What I love is, it's an open session. We had 3 or 4 members from different affiliates. I don't know if you guys happen to be there or not. They all got up and they were angry and they pulled no punches. They told them this is nonsense to pull it off. So it wasn't left with any doubt for the teacher pension plan that we don't accept that. What bothers me about it is we've been pushing for 2 decades for what's called ESG, environmental social governance filters. And that's been accepted as a best practice. So the plan actually filters their investments for environment, social, and governance responsibility. Because they actually believe it's best practice. So that left us asking the question, well, how did a company like Stone Canyon, that's a union busting company, how did they get through your filters? Because that's completely unacceptable. And they don't have a good answer for that. But we made clear to say someone on their watch didn't do their job, because that's not supposed to happen. Companies like that shouldn't be in the portfolio because it reflects on teachers. It doesn't reflect our values, it doesn't reflect what we care about, but it does reflect on us when people say the teachers pension plan owns a company like Stone Canyon. So I want to be clear that the affiliates have been very strong about making sure that we don't have any support for that. I wrote down a couple last things I want to make sure I didn't forget this. So I think Stone Canyon needs to show respect. That's pretty simple. They have to value the decent work that you folks do and the fact that it matters to your families and your community and the future you want to build for Windsor. The way they behave is greedy corporate behavior. I can't believe that they would rather spend time and money strike breaking than trying to work on a settlement. Right? It's pretty simple. Just do the right thing. Get to the table, drop the concessions, and bargain in good faith. As a union and as a leader in the teachers affiliates, I've told members a number of times over my career, you never go look for a fight as a union, but Windsor's families and communities are worth the fight. And what I love is when unions and workers get together, they're the only ones who actually fight for your families, your communities, and for your future. So I thank you for what you're doing, because it isn't going to come from Stone Canyon, and they'll just leave Windsor gutted on their way out at some point. What you're doing matters. People standing out here, I can't even imagine, over 100 days, the cold in the winter, but it matters. And I did go online and watched a bunch of videos. I saw a couple on it, and I liked them. I thought they were good. So, and because I did that, I went on to one of the sites, and there was a quote one of your members said that I loved, and I wanted to repeat it there. So there was a lady on there, and they interviewed her, and she said, "We have each other's back when management doesn't." And I just want to say that teachers have your back, and we support you in your workers' rights, and we support you in your fight. And we absolutely believe in solidarity and will continue to come up and support you. So thank you again for all your work and for the fight you're taking on.